Welcome to the Wellness Creator Podcast. In this episode, I'm joined with my co-founder, Sandy. Hey, Sandy.
Hi, Jenny.
And in this episode, we are going to discuss our own creator journey, running our own coaching business, our creator business in the wellness space over the last 9 years on Marvelous.
It has been a journey, and it was really fun to look back at it. And I think our listeners can learn a lot about. I think my main point of doing this is you do not have to have it all figured out and perfect before you get started, because we certainly didn't, and changed it about 100 times.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of entertaining and funny to go back. So let's go back to 2015. Where did we start with this whole coaching side of things?
Yeah, this is funny. You and I were just spending some time over the last little while trying to remember all of this, because it's a long time ago. 9 years is a long time ago. And I think what's so interesting for us to realize is that we started our coaching business in the wellness space prior to joining forces on the software company together. We were doing this before you joined what was then called NamaStream.
Right.
So this is a long time. It's a long slog.
But we didn't know what we were doing.
We had no idea. Zero ideas.
That's what's so funny to me. So it was 2015. We created a company called Samsara Creative.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the tagline was an entrepreneurial lab in the tech space to empower and inspire.
I know, it's so cringe. It's really hard for us to reveal all of this on this podcast. But I think the reason... it's so horrifying. If someone I was a client and came in and told us this is what they were doing, we would be mortified and want to help them. So I think obviously we've learned a lot in a decade, and it's also really nice to see the progression, the growth that happens in entrepreneurial spaces. But yeah, so part of this was we were both founding our own software companies, and we wanted to kind of bring the woo into that world. And so I think that that's where this was coming from. We wanted to bring in some inspired thinking, some creativity, some female energy, I would say, kind of into that really intense kind of raw world that we were both newly entered into.
Yeah, that's right. It was contrary to what we had just experienced going through that course where we met. But I also want to say, even though that description says nothing, we sold it. I think we had 6-7 people who I don't know what we charged.
Cohort. We sure did. And it was so fun. We were so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was weekly coaching calls, and I don't know what the heck we were talking
about.
We did
core values, some of the stuff that's now incorporated in, but lots of other visioning. It was a lot of journaling, visioning, self-reflection, which I think at that point in time was very lacking in the tech space. And so for the folks that we knew who were a good fit for that, it was great, right? Because it was the place where they could come and do some of that, is it right brain thinking, where I get right and left brain thinking confused, but more of that creative thinking, and have a really safe community to share their, life goals and ideas. And I remember we went to, shortly after we did this, so the first thing we did was we hired a branding expert to help us name the idea. So that's where Samsara Creative came from. And we did that in early 2015. And then we met up in Mexico that summer. And we have photos, evidence of us, some friend must have snapped photos of us on the beach, sitting in beach chairs with our feet in the sand and our journals out, planning out the future of this coaching business. So that's really kind of the genesis of where it all came from.
Yeah. But then I ended up joining you on what was then NamaStream, is now Hey Marvelous. And we focused our coaching to the existing clients. So we had basically, back then, it was pretty much all yoga teachers. And we thought, why don't we teach them what we know about online business? And we started a membership. I remember thinking, oh my God, everybody is going to join this, because we had it for $67 a month.
Yeah.
It was so cheap, and we were going to teach them how to use the software and succeed. Why would you not pay $67 a month? And nobody, I think we had a handful of people
Yeah,
bought it.
we
It
had a
was
nice little handful.
so
Yeah,
hard to sell. I remember messaging,
yeah.
typing, and nobody hardly bought it. It was so frustrating.
I
But
think it was
Jenny,
also such a foreign idea to join a business membership, at
yeah,
least
maybe.
in our industry. Yeah.
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 But tell everybody where we hosted it.
Oh my gosh. Well, we haven't been able to remember the name. I'm sure we could dig back through the archives of our old email addresses, but there was no like community software there. I mean, there were Facebook groups, but we wanted something that was like private and like not on Facebook for whatever reason. I don't know. And like courseware didn't really exist. Like Marvel NomStream didn't have
Yeah.
courses. Like we hadn't built the course
Just
feature.
memberships,
It was
just media
just like
library
media library
membership.
memberships, our
Yeah.
whole product for years. So I don't know, we found this gaming software, like gaming forum software that was like basically free, but you had to custom code it to meet your needs. So I just remember you and I would be like on the phone at night from our two countries. Like I was in Seattle sitting on my couch. I remember like late at night and you were in Calgary at your house, and we were like swearing under our breath and trying to like figure out how to custom code
Yeah, I was
this
so
like
tired.
gamer software to be this place for this membership. And we did. Like it was so invigorating to like, I remember getting this like giant HTML and CSS book
Yeah.
at Barnes and Noble or wherever the bookstore was, and like going page by page and figuring out how to custom code the experience that we wanted. And we did. And
Yeah.
it was so fun.
Yeah. You know, Jenny, I just remembered that we called that Samsara Creative. Like we had that big
Yeah.
giant logo.
Yeah.
Like we continued that Samsara Creative to our clients. I had forgotten that. But
Yeah.
okay. So then we decided that NomStream at the
Yeah.
time was in desperate, dire need of a complete overhaul, rewrite, rebuilt, and we didn't have the money to do it because it was expensive.
It
So
was like many tens of thousands going into hundreds of thousands of dollars is what we were quoted for the upgrades we wanted to make to the platform.
which
And
included like ad courses. And
Yeah.
then eventually we knew because we wanted to serve ourselves. We needed this, like this gaming software was terrible. So let's like build into the platform what we wanted.
yeah. Yes. And I was also like, I will say that we have lots of conversations you can find in the internet where we've talked about our journey with fundraising and raising money. But we had at that time decided, you and I had gone through an accelerator and we had walked away from raising a round of funding from investors. And for lots of reasons that we're not going to get into on this podcast, but like that's where the money was going to come from to fundamentally overhaul our platform, which like it was a very MVP version, and
Yeah.
it had been running at that point for almost 2 years, and it like needed to be rebuilt. It was just like the test version that was out, and it was getting adoption and growing every single month, and we didn't have the money to rebuild it.
Yeah.
And so then we decided, I think this is one of our best ideas we ever had, Sandy.
True.
And there was like this kind of crisis of meaning that we both went through over the course of many months to figure out, what do? We have this thing, it's taking off, but it's not going to work for much longer because we're straining the capacity of the technology with what we call technical debt. And so we're like, well, we know a lot about business. Like, look what we've built in a couple of years with our software company. Wow, we know something. So let's like reformulate this membership that we had built. We had already started to create what essentially were courses that we were hosting in the forums of this gaming software. Like, let's take this business school idea and pair it with our software and do a big 4 webinars in a week kind of launch.
2 days. Yeah.
Yeah, over 2 days, like 2 webinars.
We like studied the crap out of webinars. We took every online course at the time. We did exactly step by step what these teachers were telling us to do for webinars. We bundled software and courses. I remember the only option was you had to buy an annual plan of the software. So good cash flow, right? That's what we wanted. Or you could buy 2 years of the software, and you got coaching with us, and you got what few courses we had at the time. And we did it. We raised the exact amount of money that we needed to pay this new team of developers to rebuild the entire freaking platform. Like it was amazing.
It was. Yeah, it worked. I mean, it was so much work. It took us like 4 months to get those, I feel like, of like learning webinars, getting everything organized, figuring out what we were actually selling and bundling and how we could deliver that.
Yeah.
And we were really kind of on our own figuring all that out because we had no model for anyone doing anything like this. And so, yeah, we did that. And then that offer obviously really was successful. We were able to make a significant amount of money moving forward from that. And that became kind of the foundation of our coaching business. And that kind of married the coaching with the software for the next 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we also ran the community on Facebook. So I just want to throw that in because that's part of the evolution too, which was hell because you'd go to, NamaStream to whatever, and then you have to go over here and you have to go over here. Like we were having our clients jump all over the place to connect and talk and consume the material. It was messy.
Yeah, and we didn't even have like comments under videos in NamaStream at that point. Like those features that now exist. I mean, I think part of why we want to tell this story on the Wellness Creator podcast is because so much of how the software has been developed since its beginning has been to meet the needs of our own business, right? Like as creators. So we initially created the software company, the software product for yoga studios and small gyms. And then it evolved to meet the needs of independent teachers and trainers and coaches. And then really, since then, it's also fundamentally evolved to meet our own needs as
Selfish
coaches
as that
and
is.
course creators.
Yep.
So we bring that, like, I would say, like in software, you call it dog fooding. Like we really use our own thing every day. So like the fact that we built community into the platform is because we had to have a full-time team member that was navigating letting people into and dismissing them out of removing them from Facebook groups because people would buy our courses. They'd have to get added to a Facebook group. And then when they finish, they'd have to get removed. And just the administrative, the spreadsheets, the databases of managing permissions.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was so awful. It was the worst job. Like I never wanted to do that one day of my life. Like that's not a good use of either of our brains to like manage a spreadsheet of permissions. So that is what technology is for. That is what tech is so good at. So I think that's just such an important thing to get across is that like the integration of kind of this all-in-one coaching and teaching platform is really based on the needs of us as super robust users, as online business owners.
Okay, so we got into Facebook ads for a little while. We did quite well with this whole thing. And then 2020 happened.
Yes.
The world imploded. Our business exploded.
Yes.
We were selling, at the time it was called Inner Circle. So we were selling these basically annual plans plus coaching, Inner Circle, hand over fist. Like they were just, money was flying in. The software was, we've spoken on past podcasts about this time, but it was brutal. And so we had to make a decision. We were selling too many. We were too busy. There was too many people in the program.
Yeah, I think that that's an important lesson. And at that point, we had essentially, it was pretty much like 4.5, 5 full-time people on the coaching, like kind of running and maintaining and coaching on the coaching side of our business. And that was not ever what you and I wanted. And so I mean, it was also just too much also running and building a technology company to deal with. And so we made a very quick decision, I don't know, within like 30 to 60 days after the pandemic kind of shut everything down to like instantly deprecate what we had been successfully selling for the last 4 years. And we hiked up the price. We like 3x'd plus the price so that fewer people would buy. It just was not sustainable. Like we could not offer what we had been selling, which is a great problem to have in retrospect. I think like everyone thinks, oh, wow, I have too many people buying my coaching program or my courses. Like, yes, it's great. And it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think maybe you don't realize when your business is growing exponentially, right? Like you have to spend the money you're bringing in to make sure that the program's maintained, that people are getting what they paid for, they're getting access to you, that they feel like they deserve, right? Like all those things
Yeah.
become much harder
Yeah.
as your courses and coaching programs get more crowded and memberships get more crowded.
Right. Because, at that high ticket price, people expect like high ticket service, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of attention and lots of clarity
Yeah.
and so on.
Rightly so.
Yeah, but we also added, like, we did this high ticket price. It was 6,000 at the time.
Yeah.
And we added, like, we gave them all our courses that we've ever created. And I think throughout the years, we have continued to see where people were struggling, and then we create a course. You need to know how to build a membership. Let's do a whole thing on membership. You need to know how to run a challenge. Let's do a whole thing on, we just kept adding. So we had quite a library of online business courses. But then we added co-working calls to our community for that high ticket price, right? So we had twice a week at the time. It was twice a week. We would just open up Zoom and people could come in and, work collectively. It was sort of a time that people could put aside for their own business and be accountable and work together. We also added copywriting calls, so critique calls. People could submit sales pages and emails and so on. And we would like give them some feedback on copy. And then we also had a regular coaching call. So we had like 3 or 4 or 5 calls a week.
Oh, yeah.
Plus the courses, plus the community. So it was a really big package. And that's why we had so many people helping us, because it was so many.
Yeah. And then it was still, for part of that was still the Facebook group. Like it wasn't until a year plus later that we even had added the community feature. So again, like this is all the permissions. And I'll just say, I remember too, Sandy, so I think this is relevant to a lot of creators. Like as you grow, your business adapts to meet the needs of your clients and your students. Pre-COVID or like early COVID, our course, Inner Circle, was a course with some of these coaching benefits. There were over 80 videos. There were 80 lessons in that course. And so we also realized that's overwhelming. We heard the feedback, right? Like we're like, oh, we had just been operating for years thinking like the more the better,
More
right?
is
Like,
better.
oh, you are investing in this. Like we're just going to over deliver and give you more and more stuff. Like all the things that we've learned over all these years, like we're just going to keep giving you more and more and more training. And it was also in our evolution as creators and coaches. At some point we're like, actually maybe less is more. And so we've also gone through this process, Sandy, of like culling, like significantly culling what our clients get so that they're just getting the right information and not getting overwhelmed or distracted.
Yeah, we got really focused on like with our quintessential client, what is it that we want them to achieve while working with us? And we realized that the amount of material was actually hindering them. And we also, at that point, started to talk about like the timeline. So originally, this Inner Circle was 1 year, and we thought at the time, and I think correctly, that let's like building a business. It's not an overnight thing. We're not promising 10,000 in a month or anything like that. There's no ridiculous money claims. We also knew that our audience was primarily women, primarily mothers, and that life was busy. And if we made this a short window of time that they, summer holidays or sickness, whatever, life happens and it's going to limit their ability to do the work. So we wanted to give them ample time to achieve success, which was 1 year.
Yeah.
And then slowly through the years, we saw that was actually, in some cases, a detriment, because people would be like, oh, I'm here for a year. The procrastination would come in, perfectionism would come in. They wouldn't do the work. And then at the last couple months, they'd freaking panic, oh my God, he da. And they'd like, time just slipped by. Yeah. So that's when we started to rethink the duration, which is another lesson, because sometimes it's better to kind of condense and force people to do the work instead of giving them too much time. And again, the question we kept asking ourselves, what do we need to do to get them results? What do we need to do to get them results?
Yes, I think that that realization or that idea as coaches that our job is to help people get results faster with as little from us as possible. Like,
Yeah.
let's just give them the gold nuggets and not distract them with the silver and the bronze and all the other things. And I think we also had enough data, like how, like, I don't know, the 1,000+ people that had been our coaching clients at that point.
Yeah.
We realized, like, okay, so people usually take 6 weeks or so to get through this core. Like the people who are taking action, they can
Yeah.
do it in this amount of time, like 4 to 6 weeks. So everything else is just extra and gravy and bonus. And for some people who are really self-directed, that's fine. Like they can take advantage of a year of time and a bunch of different kind of pathways to go in different courses to and content to explore. But a lot of us are not so self-directed, right? Like when you hire a coach, a lot of people are hiring a coach because they want something prescriptive. They want to be given step-by-step instructions. Like that's what you're paying for. And I think that as there has been more and more information on the internet about coaching or about wellness or about anything that any of us does, there's just so much free, overwhelming amounts of content that what you're really paying for in an instructor or a coach is someone to like point you in the exact direction you need to go and to some degree hold your hand as you go through it, right? It's not to be like, here's this like massive universe of information and the world is your oyster. Like the world is already our oyster. If we have an internet connection, we have everything, all of the things all the time. So
Yeah.
I think that's also changed since you and I started as
Yes.
creators. Like
Yes,
we,
true.
I mean, to figure out how to write the first autoresponder email sequence for me was like rocket science. I was like, how do people know what to write? How many emails do you send? How far apart? How do I like code something to send these? I mean, it was like so hard.
Yeah.
So more information would have been great. But
Yeah.
now there's too much information.
Yeah, that's right. So that's when we decided. We also changed the name in there from Inner Circle to Luminaries.
Yes.
And we made a decision to actually run for this like time problem. We ran in fall of 2023 our first ever cohort of
Yeah.
5 weeks, and we
Yes.
taught the material live on how to get launched, right? From like idea to launch.
Yeah, we did 5 weeks of like intensive coaching, and then they got
teaching.
5 additional weeks of like kind of group coaching in our other
Yeah,
program.
but the teaching, we took
Yes,
it and
5
condensed it into
Yes, and
twice a
people
week.
had
5
great
weeks.
results in 5 weeks.
Great
which is
results.
what we predicted would happen.
Yeah.
So that
Because
was,
if they would not have had those results if we gave them a year.
no, I mean, some people would have like, right, there's that, again, that like thin layer of people that are going to be the super overachiever, self-directed folks that are, and those are the people that we had been noticing and observing for years is once they came into the program and took off and took action, that's how long it took them. Right. So, but that's again, a thin layer. I think it's okay. I don't know. You and I have had like different feelings about this idea of accountability and what that
Yeah.
means. And, you know, we both want people to be adults and to be responsible for their own lives and their own choices. At the same time, people are, you know, they get overwhelmed and they don't take action and they procrastinate and they're perfectionistic. And so if as coaches, we can help them to overcome some of those limitations or tendencies, then great. And that's what the cohort experience really did in our case.
Yeah. And then what we did was we realized they launched and they made some money and it was super exciting. And then it was like, now what? Now what do I do? Now what do I do? So we offered for them, the cohort, to come into our program, our Luminaries program, at a monthly rate. So it was like they got this intense 5 weeks, got the result, and then to maintain and go to the next step.
Yeah.
Just join us monthly, no obligation, you know, quarterly, monthly, whatever you want. And then you can leave whenever you feel like it. And that felt really good. And that's still, those people are still in our program now, paying monthly or quarterly or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was great too. And I mean, if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, you guys have made a lot of changes, like, yes, that's part of the work, I think, is evolving and testing things as a business owner and as a creator, because part of it is you learn the more clients or students you work with, right? You know this in your profession and in your teaching and your work, the more you do, the more feedback you get, you realize like, okay, this is really working or this isn't. the other piece to add to that is that when you're working on the internet is always changing. And so you have to be both adapting to your clients and your students, as well as like the external world and the kind of technology around you. So something that was like, kicking butt in 2019 looked really different in 2022. And vice versa. In 2022, what worked doesn't work in 2024. And I think like the internet keeps you on your toes. Like the creator economy will always be evolving at a faster rate than I would say like the rest of society.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, so now I just want to let everyone know where we are now. Now we just have an open membership to join our coaching program. So all the courses, there's copy calls, there's coaching calls, there's visibility calls that you're running / co-working.
Yeah.
And that is a monthly membership. I think we've just got our material to a place where you can now join. Here's the main course and the steps that you're going to follow, which is what we taught in the boot camp. Boom, 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 boom. And we're going to help you walk through it. There's tons of people who have done it or are doing it. And it's just a membership now.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things we talk about in our program is product design. And part of what you need to do as the teacher, the creator, the coach, the instructor is to make sure that you're putting the content out in a way that meets the needs of your clients or your students, right? Like you have to be able to deliver the transformation or the result to them. But you also, when you're designing the kind of structure of your business or of your offer, it has to meet your needs too as the creator. Yeah. And we have decided, at least at this season in life, that a membership really meets the needs that we have for predictability and sort of like the level of attention and what works for us, right? So I think that's also important to point out is it's not one-sided. It's not just you show up and do exactly what your clients are asking for. Like, sure, you need to meet their needs. At the same time, you need to meet yours. And we've decided that this, like, it's kind of back to where we started, Sandy, with our like $67 a month, like gamer software forum tool. But we're back at that because that's what we had originally envisioned that we wanted for the coaching side of our business or the course creator side. And that's what works. We're playing with, right? Like that's what's working for us now.
Yeah, I think we've really loved the like recurring revenue model, especially from the software side. Like it's really wonderful to do that. Yeah. But we are like facing, okay, so the monthly revenue is a little bit low right now as we transition, right? Like we're used to getting like $6,000 sales, and now it's the current at the time of recording here, it's $200 a month. So that's a huge difference, right? So we're kind of battling some of this like mindset around the membership because somebody could come in, ask us a bazillion questions and then leave, right? Like that's the model. That's what
is the model.
That's what you signed up for. So those are some of the risks. But I don't have to sell something that's $6,000 and do big launches, right? So it's kind of interesting for us. It also shows the listeners that any model will work, right? Like it doesn't. It's the material and the teaching and the understanding the student or the client and what they need. You can do it in a membership. You can do it in a one-on-one coaching. You can do it in a 1-year, high ticket program if you want. Like it doesn't matter. Right? That's what you get to decide what's best for you. Yeah. All the business models work to get a client to the end result. Maybe one's better, but again, like you get to decide that. So we've demonstrated that nicely because we've gone all over the place.
We've done all of it.
Yeah, we've done every model possible.
Yes. And I will say also we've sold our courses too independently without
on the side. Yeah,
without the coaching. So that also works really well for us. Like that's fantastic, right? Because we've honed in a decade of experience, 9 years at this point into those courses. So people who are very self-directed, when we put those courses up for sale, they are able to take it at a lower price because it doesn't involve live coaching, and they're able to take those courses and run with them. Yep. And I think that's also like a very delicious, spectacular business model for creators too.
That's truly passive, and once they're built,
it's
but
fantastic.
Also they will buy, often people will buy and do the course and be like, I need some more help. Like,
Yeah.
what do you guys, oh, come on over into our
Yep.
membership. We can talk to you there. We can't
Yeah.
talk to you into the DIY course, right? So it's another sort of funnel, if you will, to lead into the coaching program, but that we wouldn't have started that way. Like if you're brand new, we don't want you to sell coaching plus 10 courses individually because the marketing, you're split into 1,000 pieces. So, we always suggest that you sell one thing, and then once you've got some traction and momentum, then you can start to add some side sales. But
Yeah.
yeah, so but we're at a place where we can do both of those things.
Yes. And our courses, just to be abundantly clear, our courses are how we teach, and what we teach in those courses is the result of us working closely with people, whether in a one-on-one capacity many years ago or in a group capacity. So it's also just a cautionary tale, like starting a course to begin with without having worked with clients or students on a particular skill or problem is never a good idea, because you don't know if it's going to work, right? The most important thing with what you make and sell is that it delivers effective results. So you have to have a proven track record of doing that with people before you can really turn it into a digital product that isn't one-on-one work.
Right. Absolutely. We heard where they were struggling, and then we went and built that. We didn't just be like, oh, let's build this. This sounds like fun and hopefully it will sell. It was the complete opposite of that.
Yeah. Yes. And we early on in like 2015, 2016, Sandy, we also had kind of a bespoke offering where we did one-on-one work
Right. I
with
forgot about that.
clients, right? So
Yeah.
teachers on our platform, many of whom were sort of big names in the wellness industry, we offered very high touch one-on-one work with them, like helping them to figure out how to use the internet, to take what they were doing offline or in a studio online. And so we gleaned a ton of information from that process
Yeah.
that we could then apply the learnings to other people at scale.
Yeah. Totally forgot about that. I also remembered working one-on-one with clients who are like, help me set up my Marvelous site. And we would do that, and we'd sit there. I remember just sitting there bored out of my head because they'd be like, oh, is it this easy? And they just like do it, right? And so we don't offer that anymore because it's so easy to set up a product or whatever. But I do remember I'm sure the person was like, I paid you to sit and watch me screen share as I sat, because it's like step by step by step. But
Yeah. I
anyway.
think some people just want company and they want to know they're doing it right?
Yeah.
They want that kind of assurance, and that was fine. We certainly at this stage have done everything within the product of the software to make it extremely easy and self-serve. And we do have customer success calls with our team and things like that. It's group calls that people can join. But we certainly do not, other than in very rare exceptions, play any role in creating anyone's site for them.
No, it's too easy now. So, okay, I loved it. I loved the walk through memory lane with you. And if anyone is interested in the coaching, you can head over to andshe.co/membership. All the information is there. We'd love to work with you. But I really think like the point of this is like, you don't have to figure it all out right now. It does not need to be perfect. It will probably change 1,000 times, plus your pricing will change. It's all okay. Just go ahead, get started with something, and then you can adapt.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sandy. And we will see you all folks next time.
Bye.